Sir, please come right up here to be sworn.
Raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Please walk right around and have a seat. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could you introduce yourself to the jury, please?
My name is Gus Searcy.
And Gus, what is it that you do for a living?
Many things, but the thing mostly is Legal Shield, or prepaid legal in the previous name.
Okay. And just for clarification, when did prepaid legal become Legal Shield?
July 1st, about 2 years ago.
Okay. And if you could, what is your position within the company? Is there a label for it?
Yeah, I'm what's called a $100,000 ring earner, which means I have this little ring. It means I make over $100,000 a year, whether I get out of bed or not, and I'm executive director.
Okay, executive director. Could you describe for me or educate us all perhaps on the hierarchy of prepaid legal or Legal Shield, how that works in terms of where an executive director fits in and who's
Sure.
above him and who's below him? If you could explain that to the jury.
Legal Shield is a multi-level network marketing company that provides a legal insurance product and an identity theft product. And it has about a little over 400,000 associates. Out of those 400,000 associates, the goal is to attain a level such as myself or some of the other people in the company. And the main level that people want to get to is something called an executive director. Out of the 400,000 people in the company, there are approximately 1,500 executive directors. And then there's various levels of executive director from there up. The other thing that people want to attain is the $100,000 ring, because you could be an executive director but still not making a lot of money. But if you have the ring, it signifies that you've made a documented $100,000 in a 12-month period. So to be a ring earner and an executive director is a big thing. To be an executive director is a very big thing in the company.
Okay. It's symbolized in part by the ring, but let me ask you this. You said there's various levels of executive director.
Mm-hmm.
Could you describe those for us?
Well, there's like bronze. There's executive director. That means you're an executive director. There's bronze. That means you've helped one other person become an executive director. There's silver, which is where I kind of fall. That means you've helped 2 people at least become executive director. Gold, you've helped 3 people become executive director. Platinum, 4, and then platinum 2, 3, and then it just keeps going up to diamond, I think, which is 13 or 14 people executive director directly under you.
Okay. And you said you are at the silver level. You've made 2 people executive directors, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Directly underneath me. I've actually created a lot of executive directors, but yes.
Okay. Let me ask then, apart from what does Legal Shield or prepaid legal, what do they sell to the customer?
The customer would be the average American public. The premise is this: the average person checks their wallet before they check their rights, and their wallet says they don't have any. We fix that. We give the average person the ability to have access to proper legal service, legal advice, and identity theft monitoring and restoration services for about $1.19 a day. Okay. It's a great deal.
So the associates market the insurance to new customers, correct?
Friends, businesses, group benefits, employee benefits, all kinds of things, yes.
Okay. And then do they then attempt to get other people to sell the insurance as also to become associates so they can build their business? Is that how
some
that
do,
works?
and
Okay.
some don't. Most people who want to build a large organization think of it like an insurance company. And if you can sell insurance, and you might be really good at selling insurance, and there are people in our company that's all they do, or you want to be an insurance broker. So you get other people to work for you, or like a real estate agent with a real estate broker with real estate agents. It's that kind of thing.
Okay. So you are within the structure then financially incentivized to get more people selling insurance for you. That's how you become executive director.
Yeah, that's
correct?
the way to do it, is to build a team of people. So you're making a little bit off of each person.
Okay. And so if, you said a little bit, making a little bit off each person, so if you sell insurance to John, okay, and John turns around and sells it to Sally, you make money off the insurance. You, as the person who brought John into the company, makes money off the insurance John sold to Sally. Is that?
In a quick summary, yes. If I sold a $35.95 service, which is what it costs, $35.95 a month, I make anywhere from $34 to $252, depending upon what level I'm at in the company. As an executive director, I make $252 for collecting $35.95. If I bring John into the business and John goes out and sells something for someone, he makes anywhere from $34 to $252, and I make anywhere from $34 to $182 because I found John.
So if I understand you correctly and the system correctly, you make the most money as not only if you get John to buy insurance and sell it to, and then eventually sell to Sally. If Sally sells to Fred, then you're making more money because the chain is growing, as it were.
That is correct.
Okay. And that's really ultimately how one becomes executive director. They get higher pay, and then they eventually get to don a ring at the meetings, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, in terms of what you do for prepaid legal, I want to clarify, is it just a matter of you sell the insurance, or do you do other things within the company?
Well, once you're hitting the level of executive director, there's a book that they publish called Profiles of Success. And it's one thing to be an executive director. It's the next thing to be an executive director in Profiles of Success. Because you have to hit executive director. To be an executive director in Legal Shield, you have to qualify every month to do that. You don't just hit it and you're there. You have to qualify every single month. So once you've done it 8 months in a row, there's a book that's published with all the stars in the company, if you will. And it starts off with the ring earners. Like I said, out of 400 and some thousand people in the company, there's about 1,500 executive directors and about 250 ring earners. So the book will start with the ring earners, and then it flips through to the executive directors at the back.
Okay.
That are consistently producing.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you do anything to help market the company or promote the company at meetings or anything of that nature?
Yes. I get flown around the country to speak at meetings, because ring earners and executive directors are, that's what everyone wants to attain. So they take us and they send us places to speak at meetings, to inspire other people. Because even though it's the same message, sometimes you hear it from a different person, suddenly it sinks in and goes, oh yeah, I can do that. Because it's the kind of thing that, it's a really good thing that anybody can do, but a lot of people just don't succeed because they don't know how to succeed.
And so you say you speak at many different conventions or events. I don't know what they're called.
Business briefings, conventions, super Saturdays, there's different terms. There's a weekly meeting. Every week there's a weekly meeting everywhere in the United States. There's hundreds of them. Once a month they have something called a Super Saturday, that in each marketplace all the meetings come together for one day. They have the national convention. They'll even have regional events.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the national convention. And I'll give you a minute to pour some water. Is that national convention held in the same place every year, or?
Back then there were two. They used to hold one in Oklahoma, which they still do that one, and then they would hold one in either Dallas or Las Vegas.
Okay. And
every 6 months.
Tell us, if you will, how those conventions are set up. Is there's various meetings, some of these inspirational talks. Tell us how that works.
Before the main 2 days of the event, there's a lot of classes, training classes. For example, truck drivers. There's a great program for truck drivers, but you have to be CDLP certified, commercial driver's license certified to be able to sell that program. Or there's group benefits, and you have to be certified. So there's classes like that.
Okay.
Then the night before the event starts, because it's usually Friday, Saturday, so the night before Thursday night, they have what's called the Executive Director Banquet. And the Executive Director Banquet is kind of like, to the average person, to be like the Super Bowl. To get to go to the Executive Director Banquet is the thing. And if you're an executive director, you get to bring one person with you, and that person kind of just won the lottery ticket, if you will.
Okay, describe well, let me ask you this before we start talking, go back to the banquets. These conventions, are they limited to people that have been working for the company a certain amount of period of time? Are they open to people that are just maybe interested in the business, you know, that sort of thing?
The convention is open to the people that are in the business.
Okay.
I'm sure there are people who aren't in the business that could come, but it's tailored towards people who are in the business, whether you're an associate or junior associate and just starting, or a diamond,
Okay.
one of the highest levels in the company.
So is it both a recruiting and motivational mission, or is it just strictly motivational for?
It's more of a, it's more geared for the associates that are already in. It's to help keep them in the game, help build their belief, help build their, you know, their thickness of skin, if you will. I mean, a lot of people tell you no. I mean, in my personal case, to get the ring, 5,784 people told me no. And a lot of people
Okay.
get 2 no's and quit.
Okay.
So it's to help keep people in the game, to help keep people inspired. And they see people go across stage. They bring people on the stage from all walks of life, all races, all creeds, you know, all financial beginnings that have achieved success.
Okay.
And it's very good. It's very heartwarming to see all of that.
Okay. Can you tell us now, going back to what you said about the executive director's banquet and somebody winning a lottery ticket to get in there or to be in there? Could you just kind of tell us what goes on at that and at this banquet, how the directors are treated or their speeches? Could you just kind of describe that for us?
Sure. It's a formal attire evening, tuxedo, formal gowns for women, so women love it because they get to get dressed up, and the men have to get dressed up, so that works out real well for the women. Only the executive directors who have qualified in the last 3 months are allowed to go, so there's around 1,200 executive directors, each with a guest.
Okay.
There's people in that room that make anywhere from $100,000 a year to $4 million a year. And the royalty of the company, if you will. And so to be able to be at that banquet, you actually have the ability to walk up, shake their hand, talk to them, take a picture with them. The dinner is really good. And then the speeches that night are usually the newest $100,000 ring earner. So if you've got the $100,000 ring, this is your first opportunity to speak. And they usually have you speak there, and then they have you speak again at the convention in front of the entire congregation, if you will, the next day.
Okay. You mentioned, you know, people at this banquet making between $100,000 and $4 million. It sounds to me like is that advertised? I mean, is it common knowledge? Is it in these publications that you've talked about? Person X made $250,000, or is that announced at the banquet? How does that work?
In the book that's published, it shows whether you're a $1 million ring earner, or a $500,000 ring earner, or a $250,000 ring earner, or a $100,000 ring earner, an executive director. And I kind of misstated, people at that banquet could be executive directors, and they make roughly $60,000 to $70,000 a year. So it's 60 to 70 on up. About $5,000 a month minimum if you're an executive director.
Okay.
Roughly.
But that's known, at least the minimum income of those individuals are known and is bantied about. Okay. You mentioned that a person who was not executive director who got invited to that banquet, I think your word was they won the lottery or got a lottery ticket.
Yes.
Could you explain to us what you mean by that?
Well, if you're not an executive director and you're really into the whole Legal Shield family, the whole concept of what's going on, and you know who all these people are, and suddenly you get invited to go. I mean, it'd be kind of like if you were working at a presidential election and your candidate won and you got invited to the White House for the inauguration and a special banquet. It would be that kind of thing. So it's a very big deal.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about why you're here and how you got involved in this. Do you know that young lady sitting there?
Yes.
In a light blue shirt?
Yes,
Who is she?
Jodi,
And do you know her last name?
Arias.
Arias. Have you ever heard it pronounced any other way other than Arias?
No.
Okay. How did you come to know Jodi Arias?
Well, that would kind of explain a little bit about how I got into this whole thing.
Okay.
I'm a bit of an anomaly in the organization.
It's the same.
Can we approach her?
You may.
Mr. Searcy, again, let me ask you if you could be so kind as to describe for us how you came to become acquainted with Jodi Arias.
She came, I had gone to speak in Arizona at one of the business briefings, and after the business briefing, they have kind of like what's called an after event, where they take the guest speaker, in this case me, and they take them out to dinner, and so all the associates of the meeting can kind of get to meet the guest speaker for that night. And she was at that meeting.
Okay, and kind of describe for me this meeting. I mean, you mentioned taking pictures and that. Is that what we're talking about, a kind of a social gathering, or is this like another event where the heads of the company, so to speak, are treated with like royalty, as you described?
No, this is an after event, after the business briefing, which is the formal presence, where if someone wanted to learn about what we do, you would invite a guest, you'd go to the briefing, a speaker will come in, do a presentation for everyone, and then afterwards, they take the speaker out to dinner, and anyone who wants to come, guest or associate, is welcome to come. And it's kind of a casual social meeting at that point, and then people take pictures, they have you sign their books and things like that. And I met her at that point.
Okay. And do you remember when that was?
Not precisely.
Okay. Do you remember a year, a particular convention?
It was like 2007, 2008, somewhere in that range.
And you don't remember what meeting it was at or what convention?
I've
it
done
might have been at?
hundreds of them.
Okay. After meeting Jodi at this initial event, did your relationship with her continue?
Yeah, she had asked me to help her. And the reason, because I became an executive director in 90 days, it usually takes people a year to 2 years to hit that level. So a lot of people, not just Jodi, ask me for help so they can get past whatever level they're at, because I seem to have a knack for helping people do that.
Okay, so it wasn't uncommon for you to receive a request like that for help?
No,
Okay.
I have lots of them.
And just so we're clear, what do you mean by helping people get past their level? I mean, are you talking about sales techniques, marketing techniques? Is that what we're talking about, or?
Well, we all have the same product at the same price with the same marketing tools, so it's really not about that. It's about what's in people's heads. So I need to find out what's making them not succeed, because this, the company has a very simple process, and if you follow the process and you do what we ask you to do, you'll probably succeed if you do it right. So there's their emotions involved. There's, you know, like some people, they're afraid to talk to their family because they're embarrassed, or they're shy, or they don't quite believe in the product that they got involved, or you need to find out what the reasoning is.
Okay.
So you need to get into their head, find out what's going on with them, and then what I usually do is set up some kind of accountability where they will say, all right, I want you to call me once a week or twice a week, depending upon the situation. Let me know what you're doing, or how many people you've shown the service to that week, or something that kind of forces them into a action, because it's kind of like Weight Watchers. If you got to show up every week to somebody, you're going to be more likely to do something than if you are completely on your own.
Okay. And is this the type of relationship you began to develop with Jodi Arias?
That's correct.
Okay. Can you speak to how much contact you had with Miss Arias over the ensuing months? Was it weekly? You talked about checking in monthly. Do you know?
Probably at minimum of once a week, we would touch base with each other.
Okay. Was it strictly business, or did you ever become friends?
Well, I'm usually friends with most of the people I deal with. I tend to work on a personal level as opposed to a business level, so yes.
Okay, so it wasn't just a matter of discussing business. You became friends. That's how you tend to do things. Is that
Yeah,
fair to
because
say?
you get to know people. That's how you're going to get to know. If it's strictly business, you don't really get to know what's going on with them.
Okay. So over those months, you got to know Miss Arias fairly well. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. During your interactions with and I want to clarify before we go any further, your relationship with Miss Arias, was that strictly platonic, or was there any romantic or sexual relationship between the two of you?
No, just platonic.
Okay.
She had a boyfriend,
Okay. And who was
I
that
wasn't.
boyfriend?
Travis,
Okay.
Alexander.
And you knew Travis as her boyfriend. To your knowledge, did a lot of people know about that?
Objection, lack of foundation, Arias.
I said to his knowledge.
Yes, you may answer yes or no. Overruled.
To my knowledge, I don't know how many people knew. That wasn't something I was concerned about. I knew, but it wasn't something I didn't conduct a survey.
In the time of your relationship with her, did you ever know her to dress in a way that you thought was over-sexual or inappropriate?
Objection, relevance.
Approach. Proceed.
Let me ask you, Mr. Searcy, during the course of your relationship with Miss Arias, I know you talked about meeting her at a convention and her asking for your help. And I know you talked a lot about a fair amount of phone calls that you had, weekly phone calls. How many other times did you physically see her? Were you in contact with her, be it at meetings, be it on a personal level, anything of that nature? Do you have any idea?
Well, I'd see her at the national convention, see her at the after event. see her at the regional event. So maybe 4 or 5, 6 times, not counting times she met with me personally.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
Not counting the time she met with me personally.
Okay. And do you have any idea about how many times she met with you personally over the year or so that you knew her?
I mean, just probably twice.
Okay. As it relates to all those meetings, both personal and professional, did you see her ever dress in an inappropriate manner?
No, she was always dressed very feminine, but she was very conservative.
Goes beyond the scope of the question, to answer the question.
Overall, the answer will stand.
And what was that? So describe that again for us, please.
I said she was always dressed very feminine, but very conservative. Always long sleeves, high necks, long dresses or slacks, nothing provocative in any way.
Okay.
Very, very professional.
Okay, and that was both in your personal interaction and professional interaction with her at these meetings, right?
Yeah, even personally, she'd always wear like jeans and long turtleneck kind of sweater thing.
Was, going back to these meetings you've had with her, was she ever sexually inappropriate in her conduct?
No. I watch for those kinds of things because some women I help.
Objection, non-responsive, these are.
Sustained.
Just describe for us how you can come to that conclusion.
Because I help various people, men and women, and how they dress, how they act, all affects things. You know, some women, they dress too provocative and men don't take them serious. They want to date them rather than join them.
Okay.
And so they need to tone it down. Or some, you know, dress too wild. Or it's even as subtle as their cell phone. When someone calls their cell phone, the message on it is some kind of weird music or something, which is inappropriate for a professional business person if someone's calling you. So I take all of the factors into consideration.
Objection, non-responsive.
Let me ask it this way then. These are factors you take a look at when you're mentoring both men and women in the business and with.
Correct.
Okay. And as it relates to the conduct of a female that you might be mentoring, you never found, Miss Arias, you never needed to direct her in any way regarding being overly flirtatious or her phone or anything of that nature. All very professional, right?
Objection needed.
Sustained.
Did you observe her behavior to be professional?
Yes.
Could you describe for us, and you mentioned a couple of the personal interactions you had with her, not at the business briefings. Could you describe, say, for example, the first occasion?
I was in Las Vegas speaking at the local business briefing. It wasn't the convention, it was the local business briefing. And she had called me, and she was very upset. Her and Travis had had an argument.
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
When she called you, what was her demeanor?
She was very upset.
Okay. Did you have an understanding of why?
Yes.
And what was that understanding?
Objection, hearsay.
Approach.
When you received this phone call from Miss Arias and she was upset, to your knowledge, where did she live at that point in time?
She was in Arizona.
And to your knowledge, was she intending to move elsewhere?
Objection, speculation, hearsay.
You may answer only yes or no.
Restate the question, please.
To your knowledge, was she moving away out of Mesa, Arizona?
Yes.
And she described for you why.
Yes.
Do you remember month and year of the time that this took place?
I can't remember exactly this long down the road.
Okay, you mentioned that you were in Vegas in your
Yes.
motorhome, right?
Correct.
And Miss Arias came to stay with you?
Yes,
that-
I invited her. She said she needed to get away.
Hearsay.
Sustained.
She came to stay with you on her way out of Mesa, right?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled. You may answer yes or no.
Yes.
And she spent some time with you at your motorhome, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And was this a matter of hours, a matter of days? Can you describe that for us?
About 2 days. 2 days, 1 night.
Okay. And during those 2 days and 1 night, did she ever make any sexual advances upon you?
No.
Okay. To your knowledge, during those few days, did she ever speak to Travis Alexander?
Objection, lack of foundation, hearsay.
Overruled. You may answer yes or no.
Yes.
Was Mr. Alexander, did Mr. Alexander, to your knowledge, ever come to the motorhome?
No.
Objection, speculation, when? Lack of foundation.
Sustained.
To your knowledge, while Miss Arias was there at your motorhome, spending these 2 days and 1 night with you, did Mr. Alexander arrive at your motorhome? Was he there?
No.
To your knowledge, did she receive any phone calls from Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
How were you aware that Mr. Alexander was calling her?
The motorhome is very large, but it's long as opposed to wide. So I was sitting on one couch, she was sitting on the other. We'd been talking about this far away between me and this gentleman here. The phone rang. And if you're in a real quiet room, when someone's that close, you can hear what the other side is saying. So she answered the phone. She said, he goes, hi.
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
May we approach?
You may.
during this phone call we were speaking about, did Miss Arias identify who she was speaking to?
Yes,
And whom was that?
Travis.
Travis Alexander?
Travis Alexander.
Okay. Could you describe for us, you talked about being in this small motorhome, so could you describe for us her demeanor after the phone call?
Well, once it got heated, she excused herself, stepped outside. She talked to him for about a half an hour outside, and when she came back in, she was shaking and crying.
Okay. Had you seen her act like that before in any of your prior interactions with her?
No.
Did you ever see Miss Arias get mad at Travis?
No.
You mentioned you saw Miss Arias a second time after this time you met in Las Vegas. What was that? When was that? Excuse
She
me.
was moving to Northern California, and she had had her phone stolen. So I helped her get a phone, so she met me to get the phone.
Okay. And how long was that interaction?
10 minutes, not very long. We just met, said hello, gave her the phone. She was on her way.
Okay. Moment, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Searcy. That's all the questions I have for right now.
Cross-examination.
So with regard to this prepaid legal outfit that you work with, I think the term that you used was that it's multi-level marketing business, right?
Yes?
And it appears from the way that you described it is that if somebody signs somebody else up, and they're somebody that you signed up, then you benefit, correct?
Say that one more time?
You sign somebody up, for example,
Yes?
and then they sign somebody up. It seems that you profit from that signing up of the last person, don't you?
You profit from all the people.
So the answer is yes, you do profit, right?
Yes.
And it appears in the way that you describe all of this that there are a very few number of people, whatever designation you may give them, directors, give them rings, whatever, that are at the very top. There's some sort of elite people at the very top, right?
Yes.
And those people are profiting from what everybody else is doing down here, right?
As they profit themselves.
But the answer is yes, these people up here profit by whatever is going on down here, right?
Yes.
And that's how the money is made, right?
Yes.
That's how one reaches the $100,000 club, right?
Yes.
By being at the top of the pyramid, those are the people that are really making the money, right?
It's not a pyramid.
I didn't say it was a pyramid. I
You
said
just did.
at the top of the pyramid.
That implies a pyramid in my logic.
So is that a yes or a no, or do you not want to answer?
Not as stated.
So you don't want to answer that question, indicating that the people that are at the top of what appears to be a pyramid, those people are the ones that are making the money.
Objection, argumentative.
Overruled.
It's not a pyramid, so to say it is would be wrong. It is multi-level, that I will agree with,
Well, sir, so your answer is you won't answer that question, right? As proposed.
as stated.
Okay. Well, then let's use a triangle, right? Let's not call it a pyramid. Let's call it a triangle. The people at the very top of the triangle, those are the people that are the directors. Those are the people that have the rings. Those are the people that go to the executive ball, right?
It's more like a circle if you want to get into geometry.
Sir, that's not my question to you, is it? I'm asking you who's making the money, aren't I?
The people who work the hardest.
Sustained.
Who's making the money?
The people who work
that are at the top, or the people that are down here that they signed up?
Sir, you are wrong. There are people at the top that don't have
Judge,
anybody
objection,
underneath them.
non-responsive. Go ahead.
There are people in this company making hundreds of thousands of dollars that don't have anyone underneath them. They go out and sell it as an employee benefit. You sign up Southwest Airlines, for example, one of our clients, you're a millionaire. You don't need to recruit anybody. So that what you're stating isn't correct, and you're asking me to state something that is not correct for your purposes, not the truth.
So the model that you previously described, the people that were in the $100,000 club, you've signed up Southwest Airlines?
I personally didn't, but I
Yes or
sold
no?
1,000 memberships myself.
Objection, non-responsive, Judge.
Sustained.
The question is, sir, did you sign up Southwest Airlines?
No.
Did you sign up any big company at all?
Yes.
Who did you sign up? Go ahead, tell me.
City of Norwalk, City of Garden Grove,
And that's the reason why you're in the $100,000 club?
partially. It's partially because of both. It could be a mixture. Some
And-
people recruit only. Some people sell only. Some people like myself
Sir,
do all of the
Let me ask
above.
you this question. She was making a lot of money? We're talking about the defendant?
No, she was not an executive director. She was trying to.
Right, so the answer is she wasn't making a lot of money, right?
That's correct.
She hadn't signed any big businesses, right?
That's correct.
And the reason that she was under your tutelage was that you were trying to groom her so that she would be able to present herself, so she would be of the mindset to go out and sell this, right?
That's correct.
In terms of the money that was coming in, the approximately $40 a month that was coming in for her, that money, if she had somebody above her, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
So
Not
the-
me.
So, and if she signed somebody up, the person above her would be making the money, right?
That is correct.
And the people that are above each other, those are the ones keeping out the business people, the business accounts. Those are the ones that are making the money, right?
Everyone makes money who sells or helps people make sales.
The big money, I'm talking about the 100,000. If you take out the business like Southwest, the people at the very top, and you only talk about individuals, those people have other people underneath them, and they take some of the money from the people underneath them, right?
There are people who do that, yes, and there are people who don't. But they
And-
still make money.
The majority of the people that are making money in that company are the people that have signed up a lot of people,
That
correct?
would call for speculation on my part. I don't know everyone's individual financial method.
But it could be, right?
Could be.
Objection, again, call for speculation.
Sustained.
You said that you met the defendant in 2007 or 2008, right?
Probably late 2007 initially. I had gone to speak in Arizona.
So what month was that?
I don't remember.
And you became, what was the occasion again?
I was speaking at a local business briefing.
And she happened to be there, right?
That's correct.
So that was a professional setting, right?
Correct.
And you saw her 4 other times in a professional setting, right?
That's correct.
How much time did you spend with her that first time that you met her?
The first night,
Yes, sir.
well, the after event probably lasted 45 minutes to an hour. And she was one of the people that I was interacting with. So if I'm going to break it down in minutes, maybe 10 or 15 minutes the first night.
All right. And then after that, when did you meet her again?
Physically?
Yes, that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
So that
Well,
you
there's
could see what
talking
she-
on the
Excuse
phone
me,
also.
I have a question. So that you could see what she was wearing, okay? The second time that you met her, what was that occasion?
At a national convention
Where?
in, I believe that one was, you know what, I honestly don't remember if it was Oklahoma or Las Vegas. It was one of the two. I don't remember the
So
timing.
you don't know where you met her the second time, right?
I know where I met her. I don't know when.
You don't know when and you don't know where, right?
I don't know when, but I know it was either Las Vegas or it was Oklahoma. That's the
Sir.
only 2 places that conventions are.
So you don't know where you met her then, right? If you don't, can you, as you said here, can you tell me it was Oklahoma City? Yes or no?
Could have been.
Right. It could have also been Las Vegas, right?
Could have been. It was one of the 2. I
Right.
don't know which.
So you don't know where you met her, exactly the place, right?
That doesn't mean I didn't meet her.
Is that the question that I'm asking you, sir, whether or not you
Sounds
met
like
her?
it to me.
Sir, you don't know where you met her the second time. That's what you're telling me, right?
I know approximately,
Approximately means you don't know, right?
if that makes you happy.
Nothing here is to make the prosecutor happy. You understand that? Why don't you want to answer my question?
I'm answering your question.
All right, the
I met
answer.
her either in Oklahoma or Dallas. Or Las Vegas. It was one of the two.
So
I don't
what-
remember precisely which one. It's 5 years ago.
5 years ago. And it could have been Dallas too? Is that what you're saying?
No.
And when you met her, what was the purpose of that meeting?
Well, when we go to the conventions, first off, there's the social...
No. In meeting her, what was the purpose in meeting her?
Check in with her, see how she was doing, what she was up to, how her, because we talk in between, remember. It's not like I don't talk to her for 5 months. We talk about once a week.
Sir, I'm asking about meetings. I'm not asking you about when you talked with her. We're talking about you meeting her at a conference, right?
Yeah, say
Okay,
hello.
So when she came to this conference and you met her, wherever it was, how much time did you talk to her?
Through the whole convention, probably a couple hours, maybe 2 or 3 hours.
And during
All
that
told.
time, you were one of the presenters, right?
Yes, occasionally.
Well, occasionally means what? That you did or you did not present? What is it?
I present at various times. It
I'm
depends
talking
on...
about the second time when you met her, sir. Did you present, yes or no?
I didn't present in 2007 on the main stage. I presented at the breakout.
So you presented at the breakout. And during the breakout, was she in your breakout session?
No, she's in a different organization.
All right. And during that time that you were out there, how many days was this convention, wherever it was?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
And how many times did you see her during that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday?
Probably 3 or 4 times.
And people that go to these conventions, they're expected to dress in a professional manner, right?
Well, yes.
Yes, right? And she dressed as expected in a professional manner, right?
Yes.
And when was the other time that you met her? Now, we've talked about 2 times. What about the 3rd time?
Well, let's continue on with that time. I
Sir,
met her several...
I'm asking you when you met her the 3rd time. You don't get to ask the questions. I do. So when was the 3rd time you met her?
3rd time I met her would have been at a breakout session or at one of the other, or the parties that night.
So it's still the same conference then, right?
Right.
All right. When was the other time you saw her after that?
After that would have probably been one of the next conventions,
So,
which would therefore be Dallas Las Vegas or Oklahoma.
and so that's the total of the 4 or 5 times that you saw her, right?
That's correct.
And in addition to those 4 or 5 times, which appears that you saw her at 2 conventions or at 2 meetings, right?
Over a
that yes?
period of several days.
Well, there was this convention either in Las Vegas or Oklahoma, and you saw her 3 or 4 times there, correct?
Right?
And then you saw her one other time here in the valley, right?
Right. And I saw her at one of the other conventions.
What other convention was that?
Okay. We have 2 conventions a year, 6 months apart. One of them is in Oklahoma. The other one was in Las Vegas.
We've
I
heard
saw-
that.
I
Where
have
did you
both
see
of
her
them.
the 3rd convention, this other convention? Where did you see her?
It was the opposite of the other one, whatever it was.
So you don't know is what you're
I don't remember. It was 5 years ago.
Not remembering means you don't know. Wouldn't you agree?
I don't remember precisely, but it was one of the
Oh.
2.
And during this 3rd convention or seminar, whatever it was, again, this was a professional setting, right?
There's also parties afterwards where everyone gets dressed up pretty wild sometimes at the parties. They have after events that are spectacular, in fact, legendary.
So people go there to just blow off steam too, then, right?
In the evenings, yes. They
And
have
so-
big parties.
How many, in that time, this 3rd time, wherever it was, how many times did you see her?
Again, about the same time, 4 or 5 times over a period of 3 or 4 days.
And during that time, you were a presenter too, weren't you?
At that one, I believe I was, yes.
And during this time, you were busy preparing whatever you were going to say, right?
I already knew what I was going to say.
Well, when did you present? The 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, or the 4th day?
The second day,
And
after the day,
second-
Friday, the day after the executive director banquet.
Yes,
Apologize.
counsel. Mr. Cersey, the court reporter can only record one of you at a time, so please do not speak over each other.
Thank you.
Next
So-
question.
you presented at this other event, right?
Yes,
And that's when you saw her again, correct?
yes.
And during this time, again, everyone during the day is expected to dress professionally, right?
Right?
And that's how she dressed, correct?
And in the evenings as well.
Sir, am I asking you about the evening? I'm not, am I?
Continue.
Sir, I asked you a question. Am I asking you about the evening?
No.
Now, after that, you said that you did see her on a personal level on 2 occasions, right?
Yes.
And one of them involved your mobile home, right?
Motorhome.
Motorhome, right?
Yep.
And she came by and she stayed 2 days and 1 night, right?
Correct.
Where was this mobile home, sir?
Las Vegas.
And the other time that you met her was involved a telephone or something like that?
I talked to her on the telephone on many occasions.
No. I'm talking about the second time that you saw her other than your...
Oh, in California.
And you saw her in California?
Yes.
What town?
I believe it was Pasadena.
And what date was that?
I don't remember. 5 years ago.
Was it in Pasadena? What were you doing in Pasadena when this happened?
I had arranged to meet her there because it was on the way for her where she was going
Well,
north.
I'm not asking you what she told you. I'm asking you what you were doing there.
I went there to meet her.
All right? And if you went there to meet her, tell me the name of the town that you met her.
I already did, Pasadena.
Okay? And what time of the day did you meet her?
It was probably late morning, early afternoon, somewhere
So-
around there.
Late morning to you would be 10, 11 o'clock. Is that what it would be?
Yeah,
And that's when you met her, right?
I'm not exactly sure. Somewhere around there. It would have been more than 10 and before 2. Because
All
I
right.
have kids to pick up from school and get to school, and it would have been in between that
So
time.
it's 10 and 2, right?
Somewhere in there.
And did you give her a telephone or not?
Yes,
And you gave her a telephone, and what was the reason you gave her a telephone?
because she needed one.
And what kind of telephone did you give her?
It's called a Helio.
All right, so you purchased the Helio telephone then, right?
They gave it to me.
Okay, you were able to get a hold of the Helio telephone, right?
That's correct.
And then you gave it to her in Pasadena between 10 and 2 during the day, right?
Correct.
And what day was it that this happened?
I don't know.
I don't have anything else, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I wanted to begin by clarifying some of the things that you were asked regarding the structure of prepaid legal and the state trying to impose the dynamic of a pyramid upon it.
Objection, argumentative as to what the state is attempting to do relevant.
Let me ask you this. Did you, in your mentoring role with Miss Arias to help her become more profitable, did you personally profit?
No, not a dime.
Okay. And could you explain to us how that works? I mean, is there different teams? How is the structure of the nation set up where somebody, obviously, as you've described before, is making money if Miss Arias sells a membership, but who would that person be to her? How does that link work?
Well, you kind of look at this as think of the prepaid legal should like the NFL. And then within the NFL, you have the Miami Dolphins, Pittsburgh Steelers, you have different teams. Jodi was part of Mr. Hughes's team, Chris Hughes's team. And I am part of a team called Team Pinnacle. So we're on different teams. But I help people regardless of what team they're on, so it doesn't matter to me.
Okay. So you weren't directly profiting off Miss Arias' sales, Mr. Hughes was?
Correct.
To your knowledge, okay. You were also asked about her income, how much money she was making, how successful she was. Did you have direct access to her W-2s or knew how much she was making?
No.
Okay. She was just asking for help to succeed more in this aspect of her life. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. You talked about, you were asked about some of the various meetings you had with her, and there was some questioning about the second meeting you had with her that was either at a convention, as either Las Vegas or Oklahoma City, correct?
Right.
Okay. And you were asked about her attire during
Right.
that meeting. And I believe that was about a 3 or 4 day meeting, as you described?
Right.
Okay. You were asked if people are expected to dress professional at the meeting. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you recall telling us that the expectation was that people were to dress professionally, right?
During the day.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, just as it relates to the day, before we move on to the evening, did everyone always adhere to that during the day?
No.
Okay. You also mentioned there was, I believe you said, after parties and parties in the evening where professional attire was not the norm, I guess, right? Is that, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I want to make sure.
Yes, absolutely.
It was more casual or nightclub type attire, correct?
Very nightclubish.
Okay. And was there alcohol at these parties?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever see, let me ask you this as it relates to Miss Arias, did you ever see her dressing inappropriately at any of these evening functions or after parties? As you
No,
call
she
them?
was always dressed very conservative,
Okay.
even whether it was business attire or non-business attire.
Did you ever observe her during any of these after parties acting sexually inappropriate?
No.
Did you ever observe her drunk or out of control in any way?
No.
Did you ever observe her exhibit any anger or any violent demeanor at
No.
these after parties? Okay. You also mentioned, and I want to be clear as well, because we talked about several different meetings and a few different conventions. Has what you told me about the after parties and the after party at the second meeting of the convention, is that true of all the interactions you've had with Miss Arias as it relates to these conventions and after parties?
Yes.
We also talked about, you also were asked about the time you spent with her in your motorhome.
Yes.
And this was not what we would necessarily call a professional setting. This wasn't a prepaid legal meeting or anything else?
No.
Right. Okay. Do you recall how she was dressed on those days?
Yeah, she wore like slacks and like a turtleneck long sleeves.
And that was both days she wore long sleeves?
Yes.
Okay. Was that, to your recollection, if you can speak to it, was that appropriate for the weather, or did it seem inappropriate for the weather in terms of the temperature in Vegas?
It was appropriate for the weather at the time.
Okay. Moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Any questions from the jury for this witness? It looks like we do have one. Counsel, please approach. Mr. Searcy, a juror has some questions for you. To your knowledge, has Mr. Hughes ever helped any of the agents working under you?
No.
How many Diamond members, executive directors, directors, and lower members of your company are there? Total number for each group.
Ooh. I couldn't guess the total number for each group. I would know there are a little over 450,000 total associates. I know there are about 1,500 executive directors and above, and I know there are about 250 ring earners. As to the rest, I would not have any idea.
You follow up, Mr. Nurmi.
Thank you, Your Honor. You mentioned approximately 1,500 executive directors. To your knowledge, was Mr. Alexander one of those?
Yes, he was.
That's all, Your Honor. Thank you.
I have nothing, thank you.
Any other questions from the jury for this witness? Thank you. You may step down. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take the noon recess at this time. Please be back in the designated area at 1:25, and we will start promptly at 1:30.